What are you doing? Okay. Okay. Alright. Sorry. Jesus. My webcam went out. Okay. So, good morning. This is Justice's Waiting Room. This is a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. Going on how many shows? So we made it how long without having really any tech issues? Let me clean up my life in the background. I got my new computer from work, so that's what that is. Okay. Here you see me haggard, right? Alright, so. And as per the usual, hey, instead of me sitting behind a graphic while I do all that, I suppose. Big gulp. And I'm gonna be real honest, when I first woke up this morning and started my computer, my headset was beeping like every 4 seconds. Like it was coming disconnected and reconnected at the USB port. Like bed up, like every 4 seconds. And then when I went to start OBS to run the YouTube portion of the show, my webcam appears to not be working. And somehow in the crash reporting, there's not audio issues. So let me know if you have audio issues. Obviously, as far as you all there on TikTok, I'm just yelling into my phone. Okay? Let's just call it what it really is, right? It really is just me singing into the ether. Good morning. No, everything was fine. Everything was fine until I turned on OBS and realized my webcam didn't turn on. And up until that point, my headset had been beeping, so I had just been like, oh, this is going to be a day. Right? Either something's wrong with my headset or something's wrong with my computer. Good, I'm glad the sound is good. Here, if you don't want to listen to me talk about my failures, you can listen to War by Edwin Starr. Happy Friday morning. So first things first, I want to congratulate all of you who participated in May Day yesterday. I thought this was awesome. So we're sharing this first. Yeah. We're rolling with the punches at this point. The as far as what it sounds like, that shouldn't have changed much. I don't know what the hell's going on anymore. Okay. Good morning. Hey, Hill. Okay, but I want to thank you all for showing up en masse. I have absolutely no doubts that there were record protests yesterday. I have no doubts. Okay? And if you need to see it, like, you know, if you're just a doubter, I suppose. Here. I'll just put the link. Yeah. Put the link to the largest, as far as I'm concerned, gathering point for protest there in the United States. R50501. There's also Indivisible. Okay. And there are others. There are so many others. Okay, but there's Indivisible. There's 50501. Um, Yesterday obviously was May Day. Okay. So they had a protest in Philadelphia yesterday with 1,800 people, and they arrested two black men. Awesome. Sure, that'll go a long way to. Yeah, for nothing. And I want to make sure I keep saying this because it's hilarious, and I don't think people realize it. You know, the thing about being old is you just don't have the same kind of energy. And Don sits around and watches TV all day. I'm telling you, telling you. And I just want to point out that the U.S. military has been positioning assets to engage Iran with the intent of what is it called? Denuclearization, like getting rid of their nuclear program. And I just want you to know that that is the plot to Top Gun Maverick. And so if you wake up every day like where the fuck did Fight Iran come from? Top Gun Maverick. And it was the Russians in the original Top Gun. In case you wondered. Now, I think it's particularly harmful that ICE is trying to make it a felony for asking them for their badge and for their warrant. Okay. If there's any impression that I can leave on you, okay, one of the things that has always bothered me has been the militarization of the police force. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that the purpose of the police are to protect and serve. And what service to a community is an AAV? Let's just talk about an up-armored vehicle that can carry like a small group of people. First of all, what are you allowing to happen in your community that you need that to respond to it with, right? Or where you need anything fully automatic mounted. This is insanity. I've always, I was in the Marine Corps infantry, right? And one of the things that I've noticed in people that weren't in the Marine Corps, let me just say it, people that weren't in the Marine Corps, is they always wish they were. It's just the fucking truth, man. Everybody wishes they were a goddamn Marine. It's just the way it is. The difference is that there's people that once they find out that you're a Marine, they instantly love you forever because they're like, holy shit, you're badass, right? And then there's people who cannot love, and so because he's a Marine and I'm not, I fucking hate him because he is something I cannot be. I am not, right? And then there are, of course, people that for the record never got into a dick measuring contest with a Marine. We don't have to fucking do that. Okay? I'll lay it down. I have like 8 days of sea service. Everybody has me beat. You know what I mean, son? That's all I'll say about it. Like, I never acted like I was a war hero. I've been out been out 17 plus years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. and never puffed my chest and acted like a bully. Nope. I just went and did the damn thing. You can talk all that shit all you want, right? But ever since I come home, I noticed when I was in high school in the late 90s, early 2000s, my Uncle Frank used to come to my sporting events in uniform. He was chief of police in Rising Sun, Indiana, without body armor, with brass on. He'd be working. He'd be like in town for something. And you could like shake his hand and hug him, and he wasn't wearing body armor, and his belt didn't weigh 15 pounds, right? And he wasn't wearing cargo pants, right? Yeah. And now you know another one. So I remember watching Uncle Frank go from, I'm talking like t-shirt weight clothing as a police officer. Like your uniform being breathable, like think more like a FedEx carrier than now. Now they're in full head to toe Kevlar, knee pads, elbow pads. They got a full rack on. You know what I'm saying? Half of, like, they have, I don't know that they have fully automatic. That's a little loose. I didn't even know you could legally buy that or own it or have it. But I'm pretty sure they also have, like, ARs with big-ass scopes, too. They can hit you from forever, right? And it's pervasive, right? That culture was not in the police force. And it isn't because we sent generations of people to war and then we were afraid of them when they came back home, so we gave the cops the same guns. That's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. What happened is that culture kills. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The most dangerous thing I can do is have the pew-pew culture as part of my community. Because on the one hand, I would be anti-gun. I think that's the simplest solution to the most complex question. Should any of us be judge, jury, and executioner of the other? Should any one of us be... I believe in the Christian church, it's let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Right? But the problem is with me saying none of us should be playing judge, jury, or executioner, and therefore I'm anti-gun. I don't want to see anybody die that way. I don't want to see kids die that way. I don't want to see people taking their own lives that way. Find another fucking way, right? Throw a spear through a motherfucker. I don't know. But the problem with me saying being like anti-gun is that people that don't look like me are in grave danger, and not exercising your Second Amendment rights is not an option for you. You know, I'm reading stuff and I have to stay myself. I have to think, like, it is super dangerous for me, for the record, to say things like, if ICE comes to your door, make them duke it out on the spot. Don't let them take you to a second location. Why? Because you're almost certainly going to die. Like, the data's not on your side, for example. And the thing that I want to keep reminding everyone about is that it's not just Kilmar Abrego Garcia and his family. It's not just Merwin Gutierrez, right? Andrea, I can't remember their last name, but that was the hairdresser that we know about. And again, I want to make sure we keep saying it. We are not talking about deportation. Jared Malott, this person right here, would not be wasting fucking oxygen talking about deportation. Why, Jared? Why would Jared do that? Why would I sit here and talk about a legal process that Barack Obama, the last fucking guy, right, to deport millions, right, did it fucking legally, and it was decried as fucking inhumane using the legal process. So, if I wasn't okay with that, I'm definitely not okay with this. And this is not deportation. The problem is, and there are people whose brains just literally like, what? Yes, Barack Obama deported like 3 million people, but he did it legally. Which is, again, traumatizing and fucking terrible. And I disagree with that too. There's got to be a better way. This is kidnapping and trafficking. At the bare minimum. And then understand what is, and I don't even know what crime this is if they were to go through with it, but I'll put it like this. Venezuela contacted the ICC about it. So I'll let you the thing that I realize though is I'm not selling this to people that don't agree with me. So you got to forgive me. I'm not talking to people that are like Trumpers. Let me back up. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. You know this. But yeah, I want to make sure we say it's like kidnapping and trafficking, and then I don't even know what the crime is when you kidnap and traffic like a few hundred people, and then you try to use them as pawns and trade them for political prisoners with another country. And for the record, that's what the Bukele, the El Salvadorian president, that's what he's trying to do. He went to Venezuela and was like, hey, you have some people of ours, you want to trade? And it was just like, hey, I don't even know what the fuck crime that is, but oh my god, think about this. President calls you, hello, hey, I got some people that need to go, that I need to just have exiled from my country. You got this like CCOT, this prison that isn't even open, so it's not like it requires funding or has staff, medical staff, right? None of that shit. Yeah, it's like the worst, right? Okay, I'm gonna send you a couple hundred people there, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta have to pay me." Sure, how much you want? It turns out it's all about the money. So fuck all that. For all you being like, oh, it wasn't about that. It was about money. It was about people getting paid. People got paid the whole way down. Eric Prince, fucking Avilo Airlines. You know what my favorite thing is? I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan. I have been a Colts fan since they got blowed out against the Steelers in the 90s. My mom was a Steelers fan, and I was at a Super Bowl party where most of the adults were drinking alcohol, and they were all Steelers fans. And on that day, I became a fucking Colts fan because I was like, oh my god, these people are fucking awful. Okay? But football is the biggest part of my whole life. The Colts won the Super Bowl while I was on active duty. You know what I just realized? I grew up a White Sox fan. They won a Super Bowl. They won the World Series while I was at boot camp. And then the Indianapolis Colts won the Super Bowl while I was on active duty. And yes, it was the fucking best day of my life. Yes. The answer to the question's yes. So yeah, football, huge part of my life, right? Always hated the Patriots, but it was mostly on-field shit and shit that you get over, and you have a great deal of respect for those guys because they played them for years and they were really good. But in all of this political nightmare that we're in, it's absolutely nightmarish to think that an NFL team charters its aircrafts in the offseason. This means that they let people pay them to use their aircraft. And Robert Kraft and the New England Patriots are chartering their aircraft to aid ICE And again, I just want to keep pointing this out. This is not deportation. Joanne, come be a Colts fan. You should have heard all the shit them Steelers fans was talking about Patriots fans. Anyway, I'm just shitting it. That was a good callback to when I was a kid. Yeah, so it's not deportation because there's due process. You got to go before a judge, okay? They got a judge determines whether or not you get deported, not the president. I know that it doesn't feel like that, Jared. It doesn't look like that. Okay? But it is. I just want you to know that it is. It's not deportation, it's kidnapping, it's trafficking, it's human trafficking. It's exiling someone. It's legally, I believe it's called rendition. And I just want to keep putting that out into the universe that this is so much work. No, I'm in my normal room. My brain broke. My camera, when I went to start the show this morning, my camera didn't start. My webcam. So I had to use, this is my work webcam. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I want to make sure that we are saying pretty regularly, hey, what is happening with our Venezuelan friends? First of all, it's not just, or legal, or good, or moral. It is kidnapping. It is trafficking. It is, for the record, one of the things that I'm hearing is they're using coercion. And I want to make sure, one of the things that I learned while I was on active duty is that I'm fucking smart. And when I'm talking to a whole group of people, and I'm like, I probably should let all of you know what fucking coercion is. Because I'm willing to bet you have an idea of it, and I do too. Okay? It can be made pretty simple, right? It has a pretty simple definition. Okay? Coercion is the act of the practice of persuading someone to do something by using force or threats. So understand that coercion is a fucking crime too, by the way. So if they are not in uniform and they don't have a badge and they don't have a warrant and they have their guns drawn, right? The fuck? It's certainly not legal or moral or good or okay. I'm not an attorney. I did not stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night. But I can pretty confidently say rendition, it's exiling someone, it's kidnapping, it's trafficking, human trafficking, it's coercion, because in many of the situations the people are not willing to like give themselves up, so they're telling them that it's a wellness check, that we were sent here by the VFW because the VFW wrote a letter. I saw this shit. Just make sure everyone knows I'm happy and healthy. Okay? I have absolutely nothing to hide. I don't own a gun. Okay? And if I did, I wouldn't talk about it. Because I don't think that's cute. You know what you mean? I grew up in a era where you go to someone's house and they show you their gun cabinet. I grew up in that era. And you know what I did? I would be like, what's that for? What you gonna do with that? What's that for? What you gonna do with that? What's that for? What you gonna do with that? Well, why do you need that if you have this? Or why do you need that if you have this? So why do you have all these? Now, understand, 99% of the time they're hand-me-downs. They were inherited. Savvy. It's like Predator. I get it. Okay? But, guns aren't fun, man. I like G.I. Joes, Transformers, cartoons, playing video games, anything that was fun. Playing pool, sports, you know? I felt more like a job. Shooting a gun felt like a job. Even as a little kid. Felt like a thing you sign up to do professionally. Especially like, I didn't grow up playing cowboys and Indians with pistols. We didn't play that pussy pistol shit. Okay? So from the time I was a young man, it was rifle, shotgun, right? Then I was on active duty and it was much bigger weapons, right? And then it just so happens that I come home and I don't feel the need to carry because I shouldn't be drawing ire. Nothing that I should be doing should be drawing ire. Remember, I don't spend a large portion of my time talking about Trumpers. Why? I'm aware of how dangerous that community is. So they shouldn't even be looking at me. Because I look back at them. And I peer into the abyss. Exactly. And we know. And so, I'm not going to waste my time. They're brainwashed. How do you deal with them? You isolate them. And then they're going to feel the weight of their decisions. And that's what we talk about every day. Okay? So, again, congratulations, thank you, good job, good on you, to all of you that went out there. And when I came home on active duty, came home from active duty, my uncle was I don't know what he would have been by then because he was on the tail end of his career, but basically in Plainfield, Indiana is the Indiana State Police Academy, and he was I think he was like chief instructor, and so I had an open invitation. I drove to Fort Wayne and got high instead. I'm a stoner. I don't know if you guys knew that. But, and obviously ACAB and all that shit, but I had the most clearest in of anyone I've ever known. I have no idea what that is, but sure. And as somebody who kind of was on the outside looking in, because again, I have family that are law enforcement, one of the things I noticed, especially after 9/11, was immediately they went from, it was like they went from silk to, what is like a Dickies shirt? Like a starched whatever. Anyway, and obviously like body armor and a kit, and they roll around with full battle rifle. They got a helmet and everything. You know, they got a miner's light on there. They got a MVGs on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they went from being like a normal person, could walk into anywhere, and people wouldn't think one way or the other, and now they can't even exhale. They do, and a pin might fall out of something and hurt somebody. You know what I mean? And I also want to point out blatant violations of the First Amendment. Okay? Here's Texas with beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay? What did we say that was... Oh, because we were talking about the hyper-militarization of the police. I'm going to restart. We got restricted. That's wild, kids. Did you hear that, YouTube? You all still over there? I'm hoping if you're not commenting that it's because you're listening to me and you're enthralled, right? Is that not how it goes? And obviously from, yeah. Bananas, BANANAS. Okay. I was just Oh man, I just realized I look sickly. I'm perfectly fine. The light is awkward with that fucking... But yeah, I know I keep sharing suppressed news, but it's interesting to me what is in suppressed news and what's not anywhere else, right? For example, yesterday, in the last 24 hours, Israel bombed the Freedom Flotilla in international waters, which was, again, I believe, to deliver aid to Gaza. Okay. I was just checking. Signs of life are people in the comments. I mean, I guess I should know with the size of these protests that we're either gonna and I don't even want to say it blow up because I don't want to get Liberty from Scrubs. New York City Mayday protests had a wild AOC appearance, so shout out to AOC herself for getting out there and getting into the protests. Whoo! New York City! That's what I'm talking about. Great job, everybody. They reported 50,000 in Chicago, for example. Holy shit, that's a fucking protest, bro. In and out, getting the daughter ready for school. Hey, Bob, as long as you're here, my man, everything is good, okay? Crush, I'm pretty sure we got restricted on TikTok for talking about the hyper-militarization of the police. No. It's just we got restricted, and what was happening is the shows, like the number of people in the show, it was climbing, and it got to like 65, and it was like you got restricted, we're restricting your audience, and then I watched myself lose in the same paragraph, right, talking about the hyper-militarization of the police and how I literally was a nut hair away from being a walk-in fucking police officer when I came home from the Marine Corps. And instead, I watched the hyper militarization of the police force. And again, I've pointed out before, think about what I said. It stems from feeling inadequate, of being inadequate. Think about it. I told you, when I've become friends with veterans that are not Marines, and they like realize that I like you, we're gonna be friends forever, they say shit like, I wish I was a fucking Marine. Right? Feelings of inadequacy. Now, look at the police force, which as the digital information era changes education forever and makes it so that anyone can learn about anything with just a simple Google search. What happened is those young, impressionable minds for the last couple decades anyway, and again, probably way fucking longer, but I'm thinking about my life. For the last couple decades have been intaking a lot of anti-police sentiment, right? If you think about what happened, I'm 40. So what happened when I was a little kid was the Rodney King beating, right? Basically went Rodney King, as far as I can remember, right? The Challenger was my earliest, Challenger blowing up on live TV was my earliest memory. And then it was, Rodney King, O.J. Simpson was in there somewhere, Y2K, 9/11 type stuff, right? That was my 18 years old, right? Shit was, again, bananas, but ultimately, like, it went right by, just like everything else has. Okay. Yeah, as I've said, I didn't even say my uncle was a trainer at the Indiana State Police Academy. His name's Frank McIntosh. I think he was actually like in charge of the trainers. And so, like I said, I had like a literal walk into Indiana State Police when I came home. That's pretty fucking close. Compared to everybody else? Come on now. We're talking about a Marine. So yeah, when you think about that, the Oklahoma City bombing, yes, also a big deal. I was thinking, for me it goes Challenger. I remember the Challenger explosion. I was like 5. It was the only time my parents ever both cried, and they weren't also mad at me. Do you understand? Like, normally, if one of my parents was crying, oh, somebody's pissed at me, I said or did something fucking, shit. But when the Challenger blew up, it was like my parents held each other and cried and shit. And my mom told me, because I want to be an astronaut, my mom said, well, you could be like a test pilot or something. It's just hilarious, because like my favorite movies, guy was a fighter pilot, and in the end he's a test pilot. Anyway, just throwing that at Top Gun references gonna happen pretty often. Okay, as the people come back. But yeah, it's feelings of inadequacy. It's not being able to thrust a badge in someone's face and intimidate them anymore. It's generations of kids grew up knowing about the runaway slave patrol, and that's the basis for the police force in the United States. And we refuse to acknowledge it or talk about it, because if that were to be like something everyone knows, that job becomes super undesirable super fast. That entire industry becomes super undesirable. And all I want is the police disarmed. I read some statistics from the Justice Department that they didn't scrape, and like 99.4% of police stops don't require a firearm. 99.4. So there might be someone at the police station with a firearm, you know? Police should be allowed to personally own them. But to be able to play judge, jury, and executioner and then have qualified immunity, I just hope that's not why you're there. After the hyper-militarization of police, it's because you know that it's the Wild Wild West for you and you can do whatever you want. I hope that's not why you're there. I hope that you really are there to protect and serve. And for the record, most of them really are. Most of the law enforcement I've ever met in my life are like really here for the people that they work for. Like the community that they work for. Some of the most involved members of their communities. That does not take away from the truth. That does not make what I said before that less true. I know it's like the duality of man, right? All right, it happened. Somebody commented 1 gorilla or 100 men. I believe Mr. Beast already did this. But here's what I'll tell you. And it goes right along the lines with what we're talking about. And I'm sorry for those of you that are on YouTube that don't doom scroll and so you're not up on every trend. The current trend is to pontificate on the 1 gorilla versus 100 men. And so you're welcome / I'm sorry. So I want to start by saying I want to limit the context of the argument. You simply have 100 men understand that I believe in the law of averages. So we're going to talk about 100 average sized men. Do you understand? The average male is 5'10", 180 pounds. So you can have 100 of those. I don't even want a big gorilla. It doesn't even have to be a male. Let me look at their hand size. Let me look at the size of the hands in that gorilla. Big? Yeah, you got big paws. You're in for a rude fucking awakening. Because here's what's going to happen. It only takes one person to run up to that gorilla, and that gorilla who only knows full speed. So something that I teach my kids is very rarely do human beings have to move as absolute fast as humanly possible, and if you don't, your life could hang in the balance, right? So we're just not used to moving at that speed or seeing it. But what's going to happen is that gorilla is going to grab the first person by the face and rip their head off of their body. And then 99 other men are going to piss themselves and run away. And that gorilla is going to stalk those 99 men and rip their head off one by one because he can fucking smell them. Because I'm telling you, one of the things that I'm hyper aware of is that, honey, not everybody was built for that. You didn't say 100 special forces guys with maximum weapons and armor and training in an environment that was... What? No, the question is 100 men v 1 gorilla, and the answer is gorilla. By extinction of your species. Literal, like, walks through people. Remember, 5'10", 180. That gorilla is like 400 to 600 pounds and 4 to 6 feet in height. And has hands that are twice as big as yours. Twice as big as yours. With your little dainty lady hands. If I'm thinking 5'10", 180. Okay? Because once you start dreaming about the sequence of things that you need to happen to overcome one gorilla, you understand how fruitless of an endeavor that really is. You once in your mind you understand that I did not say, oh, it would only take like 20 of them to jump on the gorilla. Maybe they could hold it down while somebody runs up and punches it in the face. Maybe then maybe it has a glass jaw, right? No. All that gorilla has to do is get its hands on one human being and any amount of abject violence, and the other 99 turn tail and fucking run. Why? Because you're about to see something happen to a human body that you wasn't prepared for. 99% of the time. And 99% of people, when that shit happens, they turn and piss themselves and run. Tell me I'm lying. You mean to tell me you see somebody get their head ripped off and you're gonna run towards it? So now we're being awfully picky about the 100 men. Right? So you mean to tell me that it's completely hyper violent men, barehanded, are gonna be like, arg, I'm fighting a bear with my hands. No, baby girl. It's not like you get permission to fight the gorilla. Once the gorilla knows, oh, either I survive or all of those things die, trust. He's going to use part of one person to hurt another person. That's how that fight's going to go. This was not me talking about myself. This was somebody asked the one gorilla versus 100 men. And again, I just want to say the average man is 5'10", 180. The average gorilla weighs between 400 and 600 pounds and is between 4 and 6 feet tall. And height is not relevant. And people even speaking on how much, like, if you make a gorilla stand all the way up, how much bigger they actually are. Yeah, that doesn't actually matter. That low shin angle is something that we strive for in our athletes. Yeah, the gorilla moves unlike human beings move, and in a way humans aren't prepared to deal with. And it only takes one. I'm not sitting here saying humans become emboldened after the first 9 men get their head ripped off. Nope. Because again, you just said 100 men. You didn't say like battle-hardened veterans in full kit with a gun and like days of ability to plan, and you didn't say all that. You said 100 men versus a gorilla. Gorilla all day. The gorilla is eating like a king for a while. Dining on skull. Hell yeah. Because think about this. One of the things that we didn't talk about, but we kind of get to, because we're talking about the 100 human beings versus one gorilla. We are implying versus. And that survival is imminent. Okay, like it is of the utmost importance that you survive. You add enough toys to the human beings and they might be able to do some shit, right? We can acknowledge that. You give human beings enough toys, they might be able to wrangle a gorilla, sure. Might be able to put down a gorilla, sure. But here's what we gotta talk about if we really want to talk about 100 men versus one gorilla. And that's how stupid those 100 men would have to be to fight a fucking gorilla. Go the fuck ahead. Again, I'll take the gorilla all day, because if you think any one of the 100 grown men on Earth that you could get to fight a gorilla, if you could actually find 100 fucking people, I severely question their intelligence. And I would just hope that none of them are parents. Are we missing a few this morning? I can see a world where the 100 people versus one gorilla argument not necessarily interesting when I pick the gorilla, and I tell you that when that gorilla gets its hands on the first person and rips their head off, and the other 99 pee themselves and run, and then that gorilla stalks all the remaining survivors. Mm-hmm. Like Predator. Mm-hmm. Yep. I have no doubt about that. But yeah, if you want to put a bunch of conditions on it, you could say, yeah, humans. Zeke making multiple trips to Costco. Well, I think a lot of people were protesting yesterday, CC. So a lot of people were out and about yesterday doing a thing. Okay. And again, I want to make sure I tell people don't look away. You know, when I post stuff from Suppressed News and it's Food Lines in Gaza, I say free Palestine and Slava Ukraine like every day. And the Freedom Flotilla got hit by Israeli drones, by the way. Jesus. Yeah, now remember that there's stocks. Make sure that you divest from Palantir too. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's who's funding ICE. And I want to remind you from the beginning of this charade, I told you ICE operates on very loose jurisdiction, frequently operating without a warrant. And it only takes one person standing up to ICE on the spot. Mm-hmm. But it's not uncommon for like a desperate, highly disliked political figure that studies dictators for him to make the same decisions and have the same downfalls and the same pitfalls, the same shortcomings. That because that's ultimately who Donald Trump is. Yeah. Well, here's the thing about food shortages. I think that we need a culture shift. I think we need to think more about growing our own food and buying from like local farmers markets and small businesses and supporting small businesses. And by doing that and making sure that like your job, those of you that sit here with me, is I hope you're taking the good word, right? Where I'm saying like grow a garden, Well, we are in the growing season. This is literally the time of year to be growing stuff. And I don't know that we're in the canning part. Okay. And I am aware of empty ports. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Don't take a few days. And I understand this is as a direct result of the uncertainty related uh, to Donald Trump's tariffs. So I want to make sure if we are going to be scared and we are looking for someone to blame, this uncertainty that you are feeling falls squarely on Donald J. Trump, the tariff king. Okay? And know that the way that you fight it is to not give in to it. Okay? So, much as what we've said all along about on authoritarianism, right? The first paragraph of the first chapter, it's on the first page of On Tyranny, right? Do not obey in advance. That's awesome, Bob. Bob has a farmer's market / fruit stand that he can just ride his scooter to. That's awesome. Yeah. And there's a reason that anytime I realize I've got any amount of people watching me at all, I say, hey, make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. Okay? Make sure that you hydrate and that you eat right and that you exercise. Okay? The thing about sleeping, okay, is that right, Debs. Right. I just want to point out there was a big sort of gasp in the legal community in the last month or so with a couple big law firms bending the knee to Donald Trump. And I just wanted to point out that one of those law firms represented Microsoft, and Microsoft fired them and went with a law firm that will fight Donald Trump. So I know that those people need to be paid, right? That's why that's a good thing. Yeah. And well, my hope is to grow a garden and grow enough that I can go out there and get what I need and just have a wheelbarrow full of stuff and a little sign that says take whatever you need, right? Because I anticipate, I wouldn't say having a green thumb, just being a little more capable. You know, a lot of people can't be as active in their garden, you know? But like I grew up doing that stuff. Mm-hmm. To be honest, it's mostly about money, about having the money to move around, right? But yeah, I know it's not a comfortable time in our lives with the uncertainty that lies ahead. One of the things you will not catch me doing is fear mongering. I can just say I'm uncertain, right? I saw the empty ports too. I wonder how long that takes to hit, you know, in Indiana. But know that as I've said before, we live in a very I often say we are all paper mache. And as a result, like, we just live in a very tense environment where everything's set up kind of the way it is. Everybody's kind of walking on pins and needles as it is. That even if those ports were only empty for a day, I've often said that because of the pins and needles, because people are walking around narrowly escaping ruin, right? It's just hard, right? But now, if those ports stay empty, oh boy, right? I think it kind of goes without saying. If even if there were so many people in so many situations that happen all the time, right? Where I'll be talking to someone, and you realize, okay, for this person, because of exactly their situation, if their benefits don't arrive and they get denied health care at like one of their doctor's appointments, they could die. It has to work 100% of the time every time, and if it doesn't work, it costs people, right? There's a reason where I've said you can't cut someone's Medicaid benefits in the middle of the year, right? And you got Doge going into the Social Security Administration and nixing 188,000 accounts, telling them they're dead, and having 100 or more thousand people call and say, "I'm not dead, I'm still alive. I don't know what this is." Right? And I've said there are like 36 million people that are on, I think it's Medicare or Medicaid in the United States, and it is women and children. So there is a reason that those things are in danger too. Right? It's because of who it affects. Right? That's one of the things you'll notice on my show is the audience. Right? The audience is the people that are going to be affected by decisions this administration makes. Right? So remember, look for the helpers, right? Somebody said so much for the party of children and family. Right. Right. And understand, I had to get out of the healthcare industry because it wasn't enough. People, it's gotten to the part, I never talked about it publicly, and maybe I should have, but I was too busy working and trying to get people in healthcare. But people that have Medicaid are relying on their healthcare provider, the very people that want to see their demise, apparently, okay, for money for food and groceries that they have to have. I have many customers who the only way they're able to eat is with the money they get from their healthcare provider as part of their healthcare plan. And I know you're sitting there saying, what? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. There are healthcare plans for people that have Medicare and Medicaid. Keep in mind Medicare for the elderly, Medicaid for the needy. Okay? So you can be both. Okay? And when people have Medicare and Medicaid, there are healthcare plans called dual special needs plans. And generally, again, these people are elderly and they get less than like $1,500 a month. Okay? So these are victims of this capitalist system. These are not and again, they did by and large vote for Donald Trump, so I understand in a way they did kind of vote for this. Exactly. One of the things that I'm never for is reducing benefits. I'm never for that. One of the things that you'll never see me do, or hopefully no one that runs as an American socialist, I hope that you don't ever see me do. Okay? Is say $8 a month for SNAP benefits is enough. Okay? I think the minimum, you got to understand, thank you. If you're talking about how much it costs for groceries for one person, and it's not a minimum $100 a week, I don't know what we're talking about. I work in finance. I have these conversations all day. How much do you spend a month on groceries? Okay? The hard reality is that most people are lying to themselves and me when they say, oh, $300-400 a month. No, the fuck you're not. You're spending $1,000 easy at the grocery store a month, and your costs have just gone up. It's just your needs haven't changed. And I know that shit feels pretty rough. We're getting beaten down. There's a reason I wake up every day. I show up every day and talk about the news, talk about what's going on, and say, hey, do you know what's better than this? Socialism. Do you know why? Because I'm the founder of the American Socialist Party. I'm not just some fucking blogger. Okay? I've done my research. I'm pro-equality. When a company has a DEI program, I'm more likely to do business with them. They're probably more well-run. Okay? When I see this business is supported by a union, I'm like, I bet you their products are better because they're union supported. I will do business with them because how would you succeed would be less. I don't understand. That's not how that works. See, I'm an advocate for universal health care and universal education and universal income, right? And universal housing. In fact, did you know the social economic theory says that rent, interest, and taxes are derivative of your labor and should be minimized? I'm about that. Think about how much you spend a month for health care. Right? Most of the people I know that are working full time and their employer is involved, a few $100 a month minimum. Right? And then I'd ask you in the last decade, if you're a renter and you've been around the same place, you've been around the same job, okay, how much have your grocery costs gone up versus your paycheck? Somebody said people from Israel still need to collect their taxes from us, so we can't afford universal health care. That just sounds sarcastic, Luke. I'm hoping I'm catching that. But yeah, we can easily have universal health care. You know why? Because the healthcare plans that are $0 and cost $0, they already exist. They're called dual special needs plans. They could just give that to everybody. So it's easy. And like every healthcare company has it. And it's nationwide. Every state has. Are you communist? No, that's on the right side of the political spectrum. The fascists and the communists are on the same end of the political spectrum. The socialists are the other end. I'm anti-violence. Why would I be a communist? I want everyone to have universal health care, education, income, and housing. I'm pro-equality and pro-union. And I'm a syndicalist, socialist. Which means that I think the way that you develop a political party here in the United States is you be very pro-union. And you want union leaders to consider running for political office. Why? Because if there's anything I've learned in my life is that you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of competency, right? So if I want someone to run for political office because they're a veteran with a college degrees, okay. So anyway, what I was saying is like these healthcare plans already exist. So there's universal healthcare, right? As far as universal education, that's already started, right? So social, as far as social education goes, Harvard already went tuition free under certain dollar amounts, and also room and board free under 100 grand. So universal education, it's already on the way. The tippy tip top of the U.S. education system already is doing it. Okay, there are others. University of Texas is another one. Okay, I think there's other schools in North Carolina that are going free as well. So you may not be experiencing social education. You may be paying for your education. I may be paying for my education, but socialist education's coming. Social as far as socialism and universal education. Mm-hmm. Somebody said electoral politics is not going to save us. And you know what I also know? Neither is violence. Because violence costs people. And that's the reason that I'm not communist. Is because I don't believe in that it takes a violent uprising in order to achieve what we want politically. I think it can be done democratically. I encourage people to vote. I encourage people to register to vote. I'm building a political party. I want people that hear what I'm saying, that are like, I can fucking spit what you're saying. I can draft policy around what you're saying. I live here. I want to run against this asshole. Okay? And it isn't just Republicans that we need to target. We need to target these Blue Dog Caucus members. Remember, there are 54 elected Democrats that vote conservatively. And so if you ever wondered what is kneecapping our resistance within the government, I'm going to keep telling you there are 54 elected Democrats that vote conservatively, which right now means they align with fascists. And so no, I'm not communist. I don't believe there needs to be an overthrow of the government in order for my political ideology to be successful. I think that I make perfect sense when I say, look at union leadership. Union membership is on the decline. Okay? We need to turn it around. We need a workers' party, a political party literally aiming at unions and saying, hey, we want to know what you want. We want your leaders to run for political office. Why? Because they will fall to their level of competency, and their level of competency as a union leader is to get people not only to join the union, but to get those people better benefits and pay. And for the record, I have never met in my whole life. I'm 41. I got friends all over the place. If I got an enemy, I don't know them. That sucks for them, right? I've never met an unhappy union member. I just want you to know that. Queller versus Cisneros. AOC went with Jessica Young. Progressive Latina versus Pelosi. Indicted Henry Queller. Queller won. Speaking of Blue Dog Coalition example, yes. Yes. And the thing about it is, think about the chaos that you're being warned about from anybody that isn't championing what I'm saying, right? Where I'm saying like, hey, I want everyone to have universal health care, education, income, and housing. I'm pro-equality and pro-union. In terms of the seizure of the means of production and the social ownership of business, right? I want to see unions buy up the companies that they work for and own them collectively and manage them collectively. Yes, it has to be better than private equity. Look what private equity is doing to businesses. It destroys competition. It pays off the founders, and that money does not trickle down. We can't keep doing what we're doing, I can tell you that. You can't have a necessary political shift and not a social and economic shift. You got to build community, and it is 1,000% about providing a service to a community. You know, one of the conversations I regularly have with people is about how they don't have good internet where they are. And I hate to be that guy. I guess I'll be that guy. But what about supplying internet? Right? Because they could just get Starlink anywhere, right? Right? And like I've told you to divest from all these companies that we've been telling you about. There have been plenty of people that have said, Jared, I'm all about this resistance, but I can't get out of my house and protest because of XYZ. Good. At the bare minimum, you can delete Facebook, Threads, IG, WhatsApp, Messenger, Twitter, Amazon. You can delete all those things off your phone. You don't need them. When you need to go and shop for something, you can use Amazon to find what you're looking for, and then you could click yeah, right. You could click a couple more buttons and find out exactly where that's coming from and probably get it cheaper. And I know that you don't normally do that, and I know that I don't normally do that, but we have to change our habits. We have to do it as a culture, right? The top's not going to change, right? You know, a lot of people that didn't serve, and a lot of people that didn't serve in a doing it role, an infantry role. I never heard anybody say with the experience, I'm afraid for martial law. You hear what I said? In terms of actually doing the damn thing. Not a single person. So again, I just want to make sure that we're saying with our platform, the U.S. military is not opening up on U.S. civilians. We're not doing the martial law thing. That's just not going to happen. A lot of people are saying, but Jared, he fired generals, and understand that those people that are kind of blurring the line between being like active duty and being in politics, those aren't quite often the best person for the job. They're just frequently the one that's been there the longest. And that the U.S. military, its strength is not at the top. Its muscle's at the fucking bottom. That's where I was. I was an enlisted Marine in the infantry. The people out here actually fucking doing this shit. And guess who you never fucking saw in a million goddamn years anywhere near live fire or CAX? Guess who I saw more often than I saw bars? Our Sergeant Major, actually, our highest enlisted, was fucking everywhere. I saw him on our ship. I saw him at CAX. I saw him at the range. Right? He was fucking everywhere. In the shit still. As the highest enlisted. And I get it. That's not always the truth. It's not always the truth. Not everybody's fucking Sergeant Major was all that. Okay? But I was in 2-2. I was in 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines Weapons Company. The people that were NCO and up, the land transfer is not a bill. It's a executive order, presidential order. It's akin to a memo. You can order it. They can act on it. Just like he said he's going to have a massive military parade on his birthday. Did you see what he's getting? $6,600. You're welcome. From the United States military. $3.1 million on active duty. You can have $6,000. Have fun, Don. I get it. It's easy to just to read every executive order and think all of these things are going to happen, and there's nothing. Nope. And when you talk about the number of people that have been moved down there, in terms of what's down there, it's for how much we're talking about. There's not enough people down there. It's a what's that word that the right hates? Infrastructure. Yeah, they don't have the infrastructure for that. So there's not enough people at the border. And also, no one's coming here now. Like, what the fuck? And again, it's fear-mongering if you say anything other than that. Because we're still prognosticating at best. We're still talking about what could happen. Donald Trump can absolutely say the words martial law. He can do that. And do you know what happens when he does that? Crickets. People are going to laugh at his ass. We're not set up for that, Don. We don't have enough concrete pylons for that, Don. We need the infrastructure to be able to mass produce the pylons, to be able to put them in place to block traffic. And then we need years, Don, years to train the populace to understand how the roads are going to work when we enact martial law. So that you have to train the people to understand there's a difference between martial law, and we're no longer under martial law. Okay? Well, Zeke, it could be because every day I talk about how half of all people are stupid, the other half are even stupider. Rest in peace, George Carlin. And how I worked at a comedy club and have been up on stage and did comedy until somebody tried to inject capitalism in it and then they failed. And then I was like, and fuck this shit too. So we'll just be the funny guy on the internet talking about politics and news and shit. Okay. But yeah, I get it. It's easy. Again, as I've said earlier, it is easiest to put the boot on your face and put your hand in the boot and just push down and say, step on me, daddy. But the reality is that it's a lot of fluff from the other guy, a lot of bluster from the other guy. And if there's anything that we've learned, and I've learned in my life, is that the more they talk, not about that. Nothing's gonna happen. And so yes, I understand that they've deported people and they're writing laws about trans kids and shit. And I just wanted to point out that they're bullies and punks, and that they're bullying the smallest population groups in the United States. Look it up. What group of people makes up the smallest group of people in the United States? Trans people. If you want to go by ethnicity, it's Venezuelans. So the two smallest population groups, that's who this regime is targeting. Why? Because of their lack of infrastructure, their lack of community, and their lack of ability to communicate and protect each other. Somebody said I'm against the Constitution. What part of what is happening is within the framework of the Constitution? If you're talking about deportation, that's not what is happening here. What are we talking about? That I'm opposed to the Constitution. What? But we're not. But we're not. And deportation is a legal process. You get due process, and it goes to everybody on U.S. soil, not just U.S. citizens. A court just ruled that you can't actually do that. Judge just said that Trump can't keep deporting people under the Alien Enemies Act because he can't substantiate wartime. Because declaring the Alien Enemies Act has to be as a result of conflict, or we have to be in wartime status, and we're not. And you know who determines that? The U.S. military, not the president. And the president cannot cancel habeas corpus. No, the president cannot determine that he cannot declare war. You watched him try to do this shit, and he failed. Mm-mm. He can't use the Alien Enemies Act, and our judge already did that. Mm. Yeah, well, like I said, regardless of what you're saying, I'm not a lawyer. Didn't go to law school. Didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. A judge said the president can't use the AEA to deport people. Also, I want to point out that he's not deporting people because deportation is a legal process. With due process, you stand in front of a judge and stuff. Mm-hmm. Again, I want to point out that in terms of these deportations, people like Kilmar Abrego Garcia are still alive. And that's the point. The cruelty is the point, not the actual, like, act. Yeah. So, nope. Okay. But he said, man, you open a can of worms with that question. What's the word the right hates, right? Oh, man. So, yeah, Abby Lowell. Yep, at the top of our news, by the way, that story about just know that there are people out there like Mark Silver here. It's unfortunate, sir. Anyway, been here 90 minutes. That's awesome. I want to see Doug Stanhope. That's my goal. So, hey, everybody. Have a fantastic Friday. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you tomorrow morning through some Eat the Rich in the chat. Good. Somebody said Amazon's down. This was just left in my... I posted this in the YouTube chat. Have a good day. Yo, what the fuck? Inadmissible aliens? Is that even a fucking thing? Holy shit, y'all.